The galaxy screamed as it died. Commander Sarah Chen felt the sound in her bones as the emergency beacon tore through the bridge of the human frigate Defiance. Every screen flashed red, every alarm shrieked at once. The navigation computer showed impossible readings, star systems vanishing one by one, like candles being snuffed out across the spiral arms. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Torres, his voice cracking. It's coming from everywhere at once." The main screen flickered to life, showing not one alien face but thousands. Every known species in the galaxy was broadcasting together. The proud Vorthak Empire, the ancient Zephyrian Council, the mysterious Void Walkers. All of them were screaming. "The Devourers have returned," came the unified voice, speaking in 100 different languages at once. "The galaxy bleeds. The stars grow cold. We have failed." Sarah's blood turned to ice. The Devourers were myths, bedtime stories told to frighten children. Ancient beings that supposedly ate entire civilizations, leaving nothing but empty space. "Behind, humanity," the voice continued, and now every alien face on the screen turned toward the camera, their eyes filled with desperate hope. "You are the youngest race, the weakest military, the smallest empire, but you have something we have lost." The transmission cut to scenes of horror. Vorthak warships, each one the size of Earth's moon, crumbling like paper. Zephyrian crystal, cities shattering into dust, entire planets simply gone. "We have grown soft in our power," the aliens confessed. "We have forgotten how to fight for our lives, how to protect those who cannot protect themselves. But you still remember." "Lieutenant." Torres looked up from his console, his face pale. "Commander, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving through the outer rim. Whatever destroyed those civilizations, it's heading straight for Earth." Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her. 43 humans on a single frigate against something that had just wiped out empires spanning thousands of worlds. The math was simple. They were all going to die. But then she remembered her daughter's face, safe in the Mars colonies. She remembered every refugee ship humanity had ever protected, every weaker species they'd helped evacuate from war zones. Earth might be small, but they had never abandoned anyone. "The dying galaxy has chosen you," the alien transmission continued, now showing images of human rescue ships, human medics treating alien wounded, human soldiers standing guard over evacuation zones. "When we conquered, you healed. When we enslaved, you freed. When we abandoned the weak, you carried them to safety." The screen went black, except for a single line of text in glowing letters. "Guard the weak forever." Sarah stood slowly, her hand moving to the comm button that would connect her to Earth Command. Around her, the bridge crew waited. Outside, the stars began to flicker and die. "Torres," she said quietly, "send a message to every human ship in the galaxy. Tell them we have a job to do." As she spoke, the Defiance detected something on the edge of sensor range. Something vast and hungry, moving between the stars like living darkness. The Devourers had found them, and they were coming fast. Admiral Marcus Webb stared at the holographic display showing the galaxy's current state. In the past 6 hours, 12 more star systems had gone dark. The Devourer fleet was moving faster than any computer model had predicted. "Sir," called out Captain Rodriguez from the communications station, "we're receiving responses from the evacuation fleets." The war room of Luna Station filled with voices as human ships across the galaxy reported in. The Shepherd's Hope had rescued 3 million Zephyrian refugees from the Outer Rim. The Guardian's Promise was escorting a convoy of Vorthak civilians toward the core worlds. Dozens of other ships were doing the same, not fighting, but saving lives. "Admiral," interrupted Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne, the xenobiologist who'd been studying the alien transmissions. "I've decoded more of the ancient records. The Devourers aren't just destroyers. They're selective." Webb turned to her, noting the fear in her eyes. "Explain." "They don't eat everything. They consume civilizations that have grown too powerful, too proud. Species that use their strength to dominate rather than protect. But they leave behind those who are innocent. You're saying there's some kind of galactic police force? More like gardeners, Hawthorne replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They prune the galaxy every few million years, removing species that have forgotten their purpose. According to these records, humanity is being evaluated. A new alarm sounded. Lieutenant Kim, monitoring the sensor array, looked up with wide eyes. Sir, we're detecting massive gravitational distortions. Something's entering the Sol system. The main display shifted to show Earth's solar system. Between Mars and Jupiter, space itself was bending, twisting into impossible shapes. Then, like a wound in reality, a massive ship emerged from the distortion. It was beautiful and terrible. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. The ship was easily the size of Earth's moon, but it moved with the fluid grace of a living creature. That's not a devourer ship, breathed Captain Rodriguez. The alien vessel transmitted on all frequencies simultaneously. The voice that came through was ancient, tired, but somehow familiar. It spoke in perfect English. Humanity. We are the custodians. We have watched your species since you first looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. Admiral Webb stepped forward. This is Admiral Webb of the Earth Defense Force. Identify your intentions. We are what remains of the first species, to face the devourers and survive. For millions of years, we have hidden, waiting for a species to arise that could take our place. You are that species. The display showed images of the custodians' history, a proud civilization that had once ruled the galaxy, only to face the same cosmic pruning that was happening now. But instead of being destroyed, they had been transformed, given a new purpose. The devourers test strength, the custodian continued, but not military strength. They test the strength to protect others, even at the cost of yourself. Most species fail this test. They choose self-preservation over sacrifice. Webb felt his heart pounding. What happens if we pass? You become the new guardians of the galaxy. The weak will be yours to protect. The strong will be yours to humble. And when the next great threat arises, you will be ready. And if we fail? The custodian's voice grew sad. Then you join the darkness between the stars, and the galaxy tries again with another species. Alarms suddenly blazed across the command center. The sensor array was detecting something massive emerging from hyperspace near Neptune. But this time, the readings were different. Darker. Admiral, Lieutenant Kim reported, his voice shaking. Devourer ships are entering the system. 47 vessels. They're heading straight for Earth. Through the bridge windows, they could see distant stars flickering out like dying embers. The test had begun. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the Devourer fleet approach through the viewport of the Protector's heart, her cargo hold packed with 5,000 alien refugees. Her ship was just one of hundreds scattered across the Sol system, all carrying the same precious cargo, the survivors of a dozen different species. Captain, called her first officer, Commander Park. Earth Command is ordering all civilian ships to retreat to the outer rim immediately. Elena's jaw tightened. The refugees behind her were mostly children and elderly, beings who couldn't fight, couldn't run fast enough to escape on their own. The Zephyrian younglings barely reached her waist, their crystal bodies fragile as glass. The ancient Vorthak elders could barely move without assistance. Negative, she replied. We're not running. On the main display, the Devourer ships were revealed in all their terrible glory. Each vessel looked like a living shadow given form, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They moved with predatory grace, surrounding the Sol system in a perfect sphere. All human vessels, came Admiral Webb's voice over the comm. You are ordered to prioritize the evacuation of civilian populations. Repeat, civilian evacuation is the primary objective. Elena smiled grimly. Even facing extinction, humanity's first instinct was to save others. The custodian ship, still hovering near Jupiter, broadcast on all frequencies. The test begins now. Show us what you choose when forced to decide between your own survival and the survival of others. The first Devourer ship fired. The energy beam wasn't aimed at Earth or the human fleet. Instead, it struck the Mercy's wing, a transport carrying 8,000 alien refugees. The ship simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, the next it was empty space. Elena felt sick. They're targeting the refugee ships first. Across the system, the same pattern repeated. Devourer vessels were methodically hunting down every transport filled with non-human survivors. The message was clear. Abandon the aliens, and save yourselves, or stay and die with them. Captain, Commander Park said urgently. We could jettison the cargo pods. Launch them toward the outer planets where the Devourers might not. No. Elena's voice was steel. We don't abandon anyone. She opened a channel to her crew. All hands, this is the captain. I won't lie to you. We're probably going to die today. But we're going to die doing what humans do best, standing between the monsters and the innocent. The response was immediate. From engineering. Engines at maximum, Captain. We're not going anywhere. From medical. Refugee families are secured. We're ready. From weapons. Guns are hot. Let's give them hell. Similar declarations came from human ships across the system. Transport after transport chose to maintain course, protecting their alien passengers even as Devourer ships closed in. But then something unexpected happened. The Defiance, Sarah Chen's frigate, accelerated directly toward the largest Devourer vessel. It was suicide. A tiny human ship against a living nightmare the size of a city. This is Commander Chen to all human vessels. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm. The custodian said this was a test of strength. Well, let's show them what human strength really looks like. The Defiance fired every weapon it had. Missiles, plasma beams, kinetic rounds. Everything humanity had developed over centuries of warfare. The attack struck the Devourer ship and did nothing. The massive vessel didn't slow, didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice. But as the Defiance closed to ramming distance, something impossible happened. The Devourer ship stopped. Elena held her breath as she watched the tactical display. The enormous predator hung motionless in space, its dark hull rippling like liquid shadow. For long seconds, nothing happened. Then the custodian's voice filled the comm channels, and for the first time, it sounded surprised, fascinating, the ancient being whispered. In all our observations, we never expected this. Expected what? Admiral Webb demanded. The Devourers are reading your species' biological signatures, your fear levels, your stress hormones, your neural patterns. They were designed to consume only those who would sacrifice others to save themselves. Elena felt her heart stop. And? They cannot feed on you. Your species is incompatible with their nature. When faced with the choice between self-preservation and protecting others, humans consistently choose protection. The Devourers don't understand this behavior. Across the Sol system, the massive alien fleet began to change course, pulling back from Earth and the human vessels. But the test wasn't over yet. The galaxy held its breath as the Devourer fleet retreated to the edge of the Sol system. But their withdrawal brought no relief to the human crews still protecting thousands of alien refugees. Instead, it brought something worse. A choice. Admiral Webb received the transmission on a direct channel, the custodian's ancient voice carrying the weight of eons. You have surprised us, humans. Your species passes the first test. You will not sacrifice others to save yourselves. But there is a second test, one that has destroyed every other species that reached this point. The holographic display in Luna Station's war room shifted, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Vorthak worlds lying in ruins, Zephyrian crystal, cities reduced to dust. Hundreds of civilizations that had once ruled the stars, all of them gone. These species also protected the weak, the custodian continued. They also chose sacrifice over survival. But when offered true power, the power to reshape the galaxy itself, they all made the same mistake. Webb felt ice in his veins. What mistake? They tried to prevent future suffering by controlling everything. They became the very tyrants they had once fought against. The Devourers exist to prevent this cycle from repeating. The space around Sol system began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend as the custodian ship approached Earth. When it spoke again, its voice carried an offer that would echo through human history. We offer you the Covenant of Guardians. Accept it, and your species will inherit our technology, our knowledge, our power. You will become immortal. You will have the strength to prevent war, famine, disease, and death across the galaxy. No being will ever suffer again. On the bridge of the Protector's heart, Captain Vasquez felt the weight of that promise. No more watching children die from preventable diseases. No more refugee ships fleeing from wars they couldn't stop. No more standing helplessly while the strong preyed upon the weak. But, the custodian continued, and the word fell like a hammer, power of this magnitude changes those who wield it. Every guardian species before you began with noble intentions. They ended as the very evil they sought to eliminate. Admiral, Webb's voice was steady, despite the magnitude of the decision. What exactly are you offering? The holographic display showed the true scope of custodian technology. Devices that could move stars, reshape planets, rewrite the fundamental laws of physics within entire systems. The power to make suffering itself impossible. Accept the Covenant, and you can ensure that nothing like the Devourer crisis ever happens again. You can create a galaxy where every being is safe, fed, healthy, and content. Perfect order. Perfect peace. Webb looked around the war room at his officers. He saw the temptation in their eyes, the same desire that must have consumed every species that had faced this choice. Who wouldn't want to end all suffering forever? But then his comm crackled with reports from across the human fleet. Captain Rodriguez. Zephyrian children are asking if they'll ever see their homeworld again. Commander Chen. The Vorthak elders are teaching our crew their songs. They want to pass on their culture before they die. Dr. Hawthorne. These refugees aren't just survivors. They're storytellers, artists, dreamers. They're not broken things. To be fixed. Webb realized the trap. You're not offering us power, he said slowly. You're offering us the chance to play God. Every guardian species has made the same realization, the custodian replied. And everyone has decided they could do better than their predecessors. They could wield ultimate power without being corrupted by it. The Devourer fleet began to move again, but this time they weren't retreating. They were repositioning, waiting for humanity's answer. If humans accepted the Covenant, they would face the same fate as every other guardian species. If they refused. What happens if we decline? Webb asked. Then you remain as you are. Limited, mortal, constantly struggling against suffering you cannot prevent. Watching beings die that you might have saved. Living with the knowledge that you chose to let evil exist when you could have eliminated it. Lieutenant Kim's voice cut through the tension. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the refugee ships. They want to know if we're going to abandon them. Webb closed his eyes. The choice was impossible. Accept godhood and inevitably become tyrants, or remain limited and watch countless beings suffer when you could have saved them. But then he heard something that changed everything. Laughter. It was coming from the refugee ships. Despite everything, despite losing their homes, their families, their entire civilizations, the alien survivors were sharing jokes with their human protectors, teaching them songs, telling them stories. No, Webb said suddenly. Admiral? Commander Park looked shocked. No, Webb repeated, stronger now. We don't accept the Covenant. The custodian's voice carried surprise and... was that relief? You refuse ultimate power? We refuse the illusion of it, Webb replied. Real strength isn't the ability to control everything. It's the choice to keep fighting even when you can't. It's standing guard over people who might never thank you, might never even know your name. The Devourer fleet suddenly stopped moving. Across the galaxy, something fundamental was shifting. And in the depths of space, an ancient intelligence that had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years spoke a single word. Finally, the galaxy shuddered. As Admiral Webb's words echoed across the communications network, something extraordinary began to happen. The Devourer ships, those massive predators that had consumed entire civilizations, began to change. Their shadow black hulls rippled and shifted. Darkness, giving way to something else, light began to emanate from within their organic structures. Not the harsh glare of weapons, but the warm glow of stars being born. What's happening? Captain Vasquez demanded from the bridge of the Protector's heart, watching her sensors struggle to interpret the readings. The custodian's voice carried a mixture of wonder and profound sadness. "The truth, Captain. The truth we have hidden for millennia." The largest devourer ship, the one that had consumed entire star systems, began to transmit. But the voice that emerged wasn't the growl of a cosmic predator. It was tired, ancient, and unmistakably human. "My name was Captain Jennifer Walsh," the voice said, carrying the weight of eons. "I commanded the Earth vessel Salvation approximately 50 million years ago. Every human in the Sol system felt their blood turn to ice. We were the last guardian species before you," the voice continued. "We accepted the covenant. We took the power to reshape the galaxy, to end all suffering. And we became the very evil we sought to destroy." Admiral Webb's hands trembled as he activated his communicator. "That's impossible. Humans have only been spacefaring for a few centuries." "Time is a circle in this galaxy," the ancient human voice replied. "This is not the first time humanity has reached for the stars. We are you, 50 million years in the future and the past. When we accepted the covenant, we gained the power to rewrite reality itself, including the ability to seed our own origins in the distant past." The holographic displays across the human fleet showed the truth. Images of ancient Earth, of the first humans to leave their solar system, of the civilization that had grown so powerful it could manipulate time itself. "We started with noble intentions," Captain Walsh continued. "We eliminated war by controlling every government. We ended hunger by controlling every farm. We stopped disease by controlling every living cell. But control became oppression, and oppression became tyranny. The reformed devourer ships were now radiating pure light, their predatory forms becoming something else entirely: guardians, protectors, beings of immense power held in check by even greater wisdom. "The custodians didn't create us," Walsh explained. "We created ourselves. When our tyranny became unbearable, we chose to become the devourers, cosmic predators that would prevent any species from making our mistakes. We became the monsters that would devour any civilization that grew too powerful, too controlling." Dr. Hawthorne's voice crackled over the comm from her research station. "But the cycle, it's been going on for millions of years. How many times have we—" "17 times," Walsh replied sadly. "17 times humanity has reached the stars. 17 times we have faced this choice. 16 times we chose power and became the devourers. This is the 17th iteration." Captain Vasquez felt the weight of cosmic history pressing down on her. "What makes this time different?" "Because this time," the custodian's voice interjected, "you chose to refuse power even when you could have wielded it perfectly." The space around Earth began to shimmer as reality itself seemed to respond to humanity's choice. The refugee ships, the human vessels, even the massive custodian ship began to glow with the same warm light that now radiated from the transformed devourers. Every previous iteration of humanity justified accepting the covenant, the custodian explained. They believed they were different, that they could handle ultimate power without being corrupted. But you recognize that the very desire to control everything is the corruption. Admiral Webb felt the moment crystallizing around him. "So what happens now?" "Now," said Captain Walsh, her voice carrying hope for the first time in eons, "the cycle ends. We are free to become what we were always meant to be." The transformed devourer ships began to move, but not as predators. They took positions around the refugee vessels, their massive forms serving as shields and protectors. The cosmic hunters had become cosmic guardians. "The aliens who called to you at the beginning," the custodian continued. "They were not the first to face the devourer threat. They were echoes, reflections of every species that had ever faced this test. The galaxy itself was calling to you, begging you to break the cycle." Lieutenant Kim looked up from his console with wonder in his eyes. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Dead star systems they're coming back to life." It was true. Across the spiral arms, systems that had been consumed by the devourers were being restored. Planets materialized from nothing, their populations returning as if they had never died. The great cosmic pruning was being undone. But even as the galaxy began to heal, Admiral Webb felt the weight of a new responsibility settling on humanity's shoulders. They had refused absolute power, but that didn't mean they could refuse to act when action was needed. The test wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 days after the Devourer transformation, humanity faced its first real challenge as the galaxy's new guardians. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, now orbiting the restored Vorthak homeworld of Thaler, Prime. Through the viewport, she could see the impossible. Cities that had been dust for millennia now gleamed with crystal spires reaching toward the sky. Millions of Vorthak citizens walked the streets below, completely unaware they had been dead for cosmic ages. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres reported from his console, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Vorthak Imperial Council. They're declaring war on the Zephyrian Collective." Chen closed her eyes. Of course they were. The restored civilizations had returned with all their memories intact, including their ancient grudges, their territorial disputes, their endless cycles of revenge and retribution. The galaxy was alive again, but it was also exactly as violent and chaotic as it had been before the Devourers arrived. "Ma'am," Torres continued, his voice tense, "the Zephyrians are mobilizing their crystal fleets. Both sides are asking for human support. They're calling it payment for our rescue." Through the quantum communication network that now connected all human ships, Chen could hear similar reports from across the galaxy. The hegemony of steel demanding tribute from weaker species. The Voidwalkers resuming their systematic conquest of inhabited systems. The beautiful, noble civilizations that humanity had sacrificed everything to save were already returning to their old ways. Admiral Webb's voice cut through the growing chaos. "All human commanders, report to emergency conference. We have a situation." The holographic war room aboard Luna Station materialized around Chen as she joined the quantum link. Webb stood at the center, his face drawn with exhaustion. Around him, the commanding officers of humanity's scattered fleet appeared as translucent figures, some still guarding refugee camps, others monitoring the restored civilizations. "Status report," Webb ordered. The reports painted a grim picture. The Draknari Empire had immediately enslaved 3 peaceful species. The Cosmic Syndicate was strip-mining entire worlds. The same powerful civilizations that had begged humanity for help were now acting as if the Devourer crisis had never happened. Captain Rodriguez, commanding the Guardian's Promise, spoke for all of them. "Sir, they're acting like we owe them something. Like saving them from extinction means we have to support whatever they want to do next." Dr. Hawthorne appeared in the conference, her research station's data streaming behind her. "I've been analyzing the restored civilization's behavior patterns. They remember being saved, but they've rationalized it. In their minds, humanity's intervention was inevitable, something we were obligated to do as the newest species. They're testing us," Webb realized, "seeing if we'll use our new status to control them." The custodian's ancient voice joined the conference, its ship still hovering near Jupiter. "This is why every Guardian species ultimately fails. They see the chaos, the suffering, the endless cycle of violence, and they decide they must impose order by force." Chen felt the weight of the temptation. Humanity now had the support of the transformed Devourers, beings of immense power who could reshape reality itself. It would be so easy to simply make the warring species stop fighting, force them to be peaceful, impose the order that the galaxy clearly needed. "We could end all this," she said quietly. "Make them treat each other with respect. Create the peaceful galaxy everyone claims to want." "Yes," the custodian agreed. "You could, just as we did, just as every Guardian species has done. And just like them, you would discover that a peace imposed by force is just another form of tyranny." On the display, new reports flooded in. The Vorthak Zephyrian War was escalating. 3 systems were already under siege. Billions of lives hung in the balance. "So what do we do?" Admiral Webb asked the question that would define humanity's future. Let them destroy each other? Stand by and watch while they repeat the same mistakes that created this crisis in the first place? The answer came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Kim, the young sensor operator who had been monitoring communications from across the galaxy. "Sir," he said hesitantly, "I've been listening to the civilian channels, the regular people, not the governments or militaries, but the ordinary citizens. They're scared. They remember what it was like to be refugees, to lose everything. Most of them don't want these wars. The holographic display shifted to show the personal communications Kim had intercepted. Vorthak parents hiding their children from military recruiters. Zephyrian artists collaborating with former enemies. Citizens of dozens of species forming underground networks dedicated to peace. The leaders want war, Kim continued. But the people want what they had when they were refugees aboard our ships, safety, community, hope. Chen felt something click into place. We don't control the governments. We support the people. Explain, Webb ordered. Instead of forcing peace from the top down, we enable it from the bottom up. We protect the civilians who don't want to fight. We provide safe harbor for those seeking refuge. We become the alternative to violence, not its enforcer. The custodian's voice carried approval. The path of the true guardian. Protect the innocent, not by controlling everyone, but by giving them choices. Captain Walsh's voice joined them, transmitted from the lead devourer ship. It's harder than imposing order. It's slower, messier, more frustrating. But it's the only way that actually works. Webb looked around the conference at his officers, humans who had already proven they would die before abandoning the innocent. Are we prepared for what this means? We'll be constantly at war with those who prey on the weak. We'll save people who might never thank us. We'll be guardians of beings who might never even know our names. The response was immediate and unanimous. Yes, sir. As the conference dissolved and the human fleet began repositioning to protect refugee camps and civilian populations rather than support any government, Chen realized something profound. Humanity had found its true purpose in the galaxy. They weren't rulers or conquerors. They were guardians, eternal protectors standing between the monsters and the innocent, no matter the cost. The real work was just beginning. 1 year after the galaxy's rebirth, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Protector's Heart, watching something that would have been impossible during the age of the Devourers. A peaceful trade station where representatives of 40 different species worked together. Haven Station orbited no planet and belonged to no government. It was humanity's first great experiment in their new role as guardians. A neutral meeting place where conflicts could be resolved without violence. Where refugees could find shelter. Where the weak could find protection. Captain, her first, Officer Commander Park joined her at the viewport. We're receiving the monthly report from Admiral Webb. Vasquez nodded, accepting the datapad. The statistics told the story of humanity's first year as guardians. 847 refugee camps established. 23 major wars prevented through negotiation. 156 civilian evacuation operations completed. 3 attempts by various governments to force human compliance with their military objectives, all politely but firmly refused. The Vorthak Empire is still demanding we hand over the Zephyrian refugees, Park noted. And the Zephyrians are still insisting we surrender the Vorthak civilians, Vasquez replied. Both sides seem to think rescuing their people means we're their allies. Through the station's windows, she could see the evidence of humanity's new approach. Draconic children playing with hegemony youngsters in the zero-gravity gardens. Former enemies sharing meals in the common areas. Artists from species that had warred for millennia collaborating on sculptures that captured the beauty of their shared survival. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The main display activated, showing Admiral Webb's tired but determined face from the bridge of his flagship, now permanently stationed at the Galactic core. Status report from all sectors, Webb began, his image joined by the holograms of human commanders from across the galaxy. Captain Chen? Sarah Chen appeared on the display, her ship visible in the background of a massive asteroid field. Sector 7 is stable, sir. We've established 3 new refugee settlements. The local warlords aren't happy about it, but they're not willing to challenge the Devourer. I mean, the Guardian ships directly. The reformed Devourers had become humanity's partners in their guardian role. No longer predators, they served as the ultimate deterrent. Their very presence enough to make even the most aggressive species think twice about attacking human-protected civilians. Captain Walsh's ancient voice joined the conference. The transformation is working better than we hoped. My people report that armed conflicts galaxy-wide are down 60% from pre-Devourer levels. It's not perfect, Webb acknowledged. We can't stop every war, can't save everyone. The Obsidian Collective is still enslaving border worlds. The hegemony continues its expansion, and some species are starting to develop weapons specifically designed to counter our defenses. Dr. Hawthorne's research data scrolled across the display. The pattern is interesting, though. Violence is becoming more concentrated among the truly aggressive species, while civilian populations increasingly seek protection in human-guarded territories. We're creating a galaxy where peace is always an option. Vasquez thought about the families aboard Haven Station, beings who had chosen to leave their homeworlds behind rather than participate in their government's endless wars. We're not ending conflict, she realized. We're providing an alternative to it. The custodian's presence joined the conference, its ancient ship now serving as a mobile embassy, helping negotiate disputes between species. This is why you succeeded. Where we failed, you're not trying to control the galaxy. You're giving it a choice. A new alarm sounded across the conference network. Lieutenant Kim's voice cut through the discussion. All stations, we're detecting massive fleet movements in the Outer Rim. The Apocalypse cult is mobilizing. They're calling for a final cleansing to restore the galaxy to its pre-devourer state. Webb's expression hardened. The Apocalypse cult was composed of extremists from various species who believed the galaxy's rebirth was unnatural, that the devourers had been performing a necessary function. They wanted to resume the cosmic pruning manually. How many ships? Webb asked. Approximately 50,000 vessels, sir. They're targeting every human-protected settlement simultaneously. Vasquez felt her crew's tension through the ship's walls. This was what they had all been preparing for. The moment when their role as guardians would truly be tested. Orders, sir? Captain Chen asked. Webb was quiet for a long moment, the weight of the galaxy's future in his decision. When he spoke, his voice carried the certainty of a species that had found its true purpose. We do what we've always done. We stand between the monsters and the innocent. All ships protect the civilians. Guardian Fleet, prepare for defensive positions. And remember, we're not fighting to win a war. We're fighting to prove that there's always another choice. As the conference dissolved and human ships across the galaxy moved to intercept the cult fleet, Vasquez felt a profound sense of rightness. This was humanity's destiny, not to rule the stars, but to guard them. Not to impose peace, but to protect those who chose it. The Apocalypse cult would not be the last threat. There would always be those who chose violence over cooperation, domination over protection. But there would also always be humans standing in their way, offering shelter to the innocent, sanctuary to the weak, and hope to those who had none. Through the viewport of Haven Station, Vasquez watched the stars and made a silent promise to every being who had ever sought refuge in human protection. No matter how long it took, no matter the cost, humanity would stand guard. Forever. In the end, when the galaxy looked back on the age of the Devourers, they would not remember the empires that fell or the civilizations that were consumed. They would remember the species that chose to stand guard over others, even when it would have been easier to look away. They would remember humanity, the youngest race, the weakest military, the smallest empire, who became the eternal guardians of the weak, the protectors of the innocent, the light in the darkness between the stars. And in the refugee camps scattered across 1,000 worlds, children of every species would fall asleep to the same bedtime story. How the humans came when no one else would, how they stayed when everyone else left, and how they proved that true strength isn't the power to destroy, but the courage to protect. The galaxy had spoken its dying wish. Let humans guard the weak forever. And forever, they would. The end.